Record. All right, welcome to Growth Minded. I'm Ed Hayes. My mission for Growth Minded is to build a community of leaders committed to cultivating a positive attitude, creating a love of learning, and choosing to develop a growth mindset again and again. To stretch beyond our current abilities will require dedication, effort, and a belief in ourselves, but it includes advantages, including more comfort in taking risks, striving for goals outside of our comfort zone, greater motivation, better personal relationships, less stress, anxiety, and depression, and a higher performance level. So if you sound interested, hit that subscribe button and welcome to the Growth Minded community. On today's episode of Growth Minded, I'm sitting down with Connor Shah. So Connor and I graduated from St. Helena's Elementary School in Edison back in 2011. We crossed paths again at Rutgers in 2015, and we were both members of Rutgers Enactus, an international nonprofit organization. We worked on a project called Keep It Real, Rising Entrepreneurs, Aspiring Leaders. I still got that in my head. And we were trying to improve the graduation rate of New Brunswick High School. So fast forward a few years, now in 2020, we're still keeping in touch. And I'm looking forward to sharing your story, Connor, with the Growth Minded community because I feel you surpass all the criteria of a growth minded leader, having positive energy each time I see you, a love of learning, whether it's fashion, jewelry, or entrepreneurship, and then a growth mindset for all your endeavors, whether it's keep it real, even soccer when you're a goalie, and then now Kuyashii too. So definitely excited to have you on today's episode.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
So today I put a few questions together on attitude, on learning, on growth. So we're going to walk through uh, those topics right now, and we'll get a perspective from Connor on each of these. So first question is on attitude. Again, I just remember the attitude, your attitude, whether it's at Rutgers, even at uh even at St. Helena's, you always seem to have a positive attitude, even just chatting as friends. So I was just curious as to what are some of your strategies you use to sustain a positive attitude. I'll open it up with that.
Sure. I don't think I have any, you know, specific strategies I use per se. I've always just been super upbeat, positive, happy with whatever I do. I think it was instilled in me when I was very young. Um, I don't know if your parents did this, but my mom definitely did. She would always, whenever I would scrape my knee or I'd get a cut, or even when I like broke my shoulder or something, I was in the hospital. My mom would tell me that there's someone always out there who has it worse than you. There's people who go to war that come back without any limbs, and that I shouldn't be the one complaining, right? Or if I was hungry, she would tell me that there's kids in third world countries who don't have food, right? And that kind of always made me, it wasn't what I wanted to hear at the time, obviously, but over the course of the years, it always made me grateful of what I had, right? And people don't realize that if you have food on your plate, if you have a meal to eat, roof over your head, if your family's healthy, that's enough to be grateful for right there. And that's enough for me to keep a positive attitude in anything that I do. Just constantly reminding myself to be grateful, to be happy with what I have, and that it could always be worse. That's how I kind of keep positive.
Yeah, it's a great insight from when you're young, and yeah, shout out to your mom for that one. And has it been any different during this year to have that upbeat kind of vibe to you when
Yeah.
there's a lot, whether it's personally a few things that we know or from greater world around us with this pandemic? Has it been more of a challenge, or have you still been able to find that positive, upbeat attitude? And and from what you've been saying, it sounds like and I can see where you'd come from. Like, even though we are, where we're at, there's still plenty to be grateful for because there
Yeah,
are folks that still have it worse off. But just curious as how this year may have shaped you in that way.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, um, yeah, I don't want to sound like a jerk or anything because I do know people who've been affected by the virus and stuff like that. But to me, personally, my family is safe and healthy, which is all that I could ask for. But the virus actually gave me some time to stay inside, work on my company, not go out as much, to focus a lot on my own self and my own goals and the goals of my family. So in that aspect, it has helped me a lot. um, I've had more time to kind of focus on what I want to do. The overall climate of the world has been very dark recently, with not just the pandemic, but everything going on, the Black Lives Matter movement, the riots, the election, everything has been kind of like, I wouldn't say negative, but more dark and more gloomy. So it's definitely been hard for everybody to kind of keep pushing through it. But just being able to adapt, stay happy, that's just been what I've been doing.
Yeah, it makes sense. Um, so yeah, it sounds like your mom was a big catalyst in your life. Like for me to stay motivated, I like for me, I enjoy like having people who inspire me, catalysts, but also, if I need to pick me up, nourishers, like people who can pick me up and
Mhm.
hear where I'm coming from. Are there folks like that in your life, catalysts that can inspire you and help you strive for something? And then are there nourishers in your life that can also meet you where you're at and just hear where you are compared to saying, hey, let's do something great. Just someone who can listen to you.
Yeah, definitely. So I would say number one, my family. 100%. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad had his own company. I'm helping my mom set up her own company right now. My brother, who's working for a lot of tech firms and stuff like that in Silicon Valley, he just started his own company. And then my sister also has her own company, a floral company, Connor Shah Flowers. So, my whole family has been really rooted in this idea of entrepreneurship since an early age. And that's, more than I could ever ask for, just having a support system of people you can run ideas by, questions by, and everyone has that very similar mindset, um, of not just entrepreneurship but everything that goes into it, the same kind of whole idealism and mindset. So having them around has definitely helped a lot throughout the years, and now it's kind of flipping and I'm helping everyone else kind of start their companies and grow from there. And then other than that, friends, definitely people like you who take time out of your day to kind of learn about entrepreneurship and stuff like that. And my friends are always there for me when I need a break from work, when I need stuff to talk to. So yeah, definitely friends and family. 100% wouldn't be there. Wouldn't be here without them.
I didn't know the entire family was
Yeah.
entrepreneurs. That's awesome.
It took a little time, but now it's 100%.
So a few more questions on attitude. This one's might be an easy one for you. Best song on your playlist that'll lift your mood?
Um, Anything from Kanye. He's a big mood lifter. I would say anything from College Dropout album. Um,
Mhm.
my favorite album of all time. That was his freshman album, his first album he released, and he wasn't really looked at as a rapper at the time, and that was just kind of the whole thing. He was trying to prove that he could make beats, rap at the same time, and kind of just showed off to the world, and kind of shaped him to who he is today. I think very successful. So definitely anything from that album really gets me going, puts me in a good mood, and kind of makes it seem like I can do anything.
Jesus Walks is on that, right?
It is.
Yeah, I'll be listening to that after this, I'm sure. That is a good, yeah, that is
You
a
need
good
to get
tune.
something done. put that on in the background. You can
Hmm.
get anything.
Yeah, I remember before a basketball game, I had that on repeat for about an hour before the game.
Oh yeah,
So I
very
could
fitting for St. Helena's, right?
definitely, definitely. So closing out the attitude piece, is there a mission statement or mantra that you try to live by day to day? And kind of two-part question, something that you'd want to tell yourself 10 years from now.
Um, I would just remind myself that, everything happens for a reason. If you're stuck, if something fails, if it doesn't work, just keep on pushing. Do your best. Man plans, God laughs. That's what I go by. You can do as much as in your control, but if things don't go out the way you want it to be, just move on. Let things be. Things work themselves out, and just keep going.
Man plans, God laughs, right?
Always.
Hmm. All right, we'll jump into the learning piece. Part of the part of the mission of Growth Minded is to create a love of lifelong learning. So that's kind of what we're basing the next few questions on. So what are the top skills you think you've acquired over the last few years, whether working with nonprofits? I know you did a lot of things on your own time too at Rutgers that I
Mhm.
may not be aware of. And then now, whether you're working with fashion, jewelry, or your own business.
Yeah. So when I first started Kuyashii, I had a few companies before that, but I'll focus mainly on Kuyashii because that was like my biggest kind of company. So when I first started, I was in college still. And like a lot of college students, I didn't have a lot of money to kind of infuse into my company. So instead of putting all this money into my company, I put all the money into myself, into learning, right? So, instead of hiring a company to take all my product shots and uh, take all my Instagram pictures, I bought myself a DSLR and I taught myself how to do it through YouTube, through other resources and friends, and learned how to shoot stuff on my own, right? And that's just one thing. When I was building my website, instead of hiring out a full website development team and front stack developers, I taught myself how to do it, right? I went through, I think, 6 websites from 6 different providers in the span of like 2 years, just tweaking and tweaking until I found the perfect thing, right? And of course, there's things I couldn't do, and that's when I would hire out or have friends to help me. But for the most part, I was bootstrapping. I did everything from the ground up, and anything that I could do myself, it wasn't just to save money or cut corners. It was more to learn because I wanted to know every aspect that really went into the company. So, when it came time to hire out, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and what I wanted to look like. So, from the ground up, I did every single thing myself, and I still do for the most part. I've hired out certain people to do certain tasks, but I still do everything. I do my Instagram myself, which has been very rewarding because I get to interact with customers more. I get to see front lines, what they want, what they're asking for. Um, but it's been a blessing, and I try to learn stuff every day. Try to do as much as I can myself as a person, and then other than just learning everything about the business, I learned also the more kind of hard business skills, negotiation, working with suppliers, putting together invoices, drafts, POs, PIs, all that type of stuff, um, shipping and receiving. There's been a lot of stuff to learn, but just kind of taking that leap and doing stuff yourself. It's always easy to hire out, but if you take the time to learn and do it yourself, you can save a lot of money. You can do things when you want, how you want it, and you can see bigger results, I think.
Yeah, that piece resonates with me. I was taking a look at like even if you want to sell anything online, sometimes it may be easier to go the eBay route or
Mhm.
Poshmark. And then I'm looking into it and it's like they're taking 10%
Hmm.
of your sales, or $2 per item, and you're not even making a $2 profit on that.
Yep.
So I can see the benefit of when you're saying, oh, I did 3 or 4 iterations of this website for Koyashi. I could
Yeah,
see the benefit of it because you want control of probably more the profit, more the revenue compared to
exactly.
a third party as well. So that's some good advice on trying to learn everything, ins and outs of everything. I think that definitely sticks. So that's a
Yeah,
good answer on that.
thank you.
So does this tie into being a lifelong learner? And is there a risk that you consider taking to, I guess, what are your limits to learning something new?
I mean, so when I first started, I was trying to do everything myself just because I want to learn. Now that I kind of know the basics of what I'm doing and how I want things to look, I've been hiring out a little more to people who actually do this kind of stuff. I have some photo people starting, some designers. Um, I guess I don't really know what my limit is. I don't think I have a limit, but I definitely do consider myself a lifelong learner. And I think the best example that I can think of is, when I first started, I didn't know much about jewelry. I didn't have a jewelry background. I didn't study jewelry in college. We studied the same thing in college, you and me, until you switched. But we were both supply chain majors at Rutgers. I had no idea about the first thing about jewelry. All that I knew was that I had a product that I liked. I had other people around the world who liked it, and I was making money. That's all that I knew, right? I didn't really know the background that went into my product and stuff like that. And that's enough for a lot of people, right? They test products, and if something clicks and it works, they just go 100% on that and they make a lot of money. And that's, there's nothing wrong with that to a lot of people. But for me, right, as a lifelong learner, someone who appreciates that concept, I don't feel comfortable doing that, right? I didn't it didn't sit right with me to sell a product and to push a product to other people when I didn't actually know everything behind that product, right? I didn't know how it was being made. I didn't know the process that went into it. I didn't know exactly the materials that are being used and the
Hmm.
best things to use. Um, so, when it came time to right after we graduated college and everyone was looking for full-time jobs and stuff like that, all my friends went to different, big corporations, finance, supply chain, stuff like that. But I had to make a decision whether to kind of run my business full time, and I knew I could do it and make a living out of it. But what I decided to do was to continue learning, right? So instead of just focusing on my company and teaching myself, I got a full time job with a publicly traded company in the jewelry industry, and I learned, right? It wasn't the highest paying job. It wasn't the most glorious job, but it was a job in the industry, and it has taught me so much about, what goes into a product, how to brand, how to market within the jewelry industry. So, I kind of took that leap and took a job in the industry and just learned from the ground up. And now I can, look at a diamond and price it. I can, weigh gold, and I know the current value of gold, and I know how to grade stones and diamonds, which is awesome, right? And that's something that's very hard to teach on your own time, hard to learn from YouTube videos and stuff like that. So having that firsthand experience and learning right there, everything that I have learned, it was awesome, and it definitely helped my business out a lot. Because now I can come back, and if my supplier quotes me uh, for a design I made, I know exactly how much money it would cost to make it. I know what quality I'm getting, if it can be better or worse. I know how to price things out, and I can kind of negotiate better. I can design better. I can think better, and it's all from having that background, that working in the industry. And I think a lot of people are scared to kind of take that step, right? Or they don't think they need to, if they're already selling a product and it's working. But it didn't sit right with me, so I had to learn. I had to become an expert in my industry and my product, and I'm still not, but definitely much more than when I started.
Yeah, it definitely ties into the learning lifestyle, a lifelong
Yeah.
lifestyle, and finishing college. To some, it may be like, all right, that's it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
that's it. Let's start working now for the rest of our lives. And like, I think it's cool that you have the entrepreneur mindset where it's like, well, what's next? What else can I learn next? How can I continue to develop my skills to reinvest into, myself, my company, my employees. So that's a cool mindset to have. And I think there's, sky's the limit for Koyashi, definitely.
Thank you.
So that could definitely tie into some words for rising entrepreneurs. Are there any other pieces of, words of wisdom that you would want to share with rising entrepreneurs starting their own business?
Yeah, definitely going off of what I just said, become an expert,
Hmm.
or as much as you can. Don't just sell something to sell it. Don't just start a business to do it and expect it to take off. Take your time. Take your time with it. Learn it. Learn the industry, so you can become, kind of like an expert and a resource of yourself and your product or what you're selling. Take the time. It takes a couple hours, 16 hours to make a Toyota. Takes 6 months to make a Rolls Royce. So, take your time, take it easy with it. And, something else I've seen a lot is a lot of people decide to start companies, especially e-commerce, when things are going bad, when they lose their job and they think they can make more money doing something on their own, or, when they need to pay back a debt and they decide to start a company, right? But in my personal experience, that's not the best time to become an entrepreneur, to start a company, um, because you have a lot riding on it, right? If you try something and it fails, you're less likely to try it again. If you have all these commitments and payments to make and stuff like that, right? And you tend to focus more short term when you do that instead of long term, right? Because you're trying to make a buck. You're trying to make it pop off as soon as possible, right? And you don't really think long term growth when you take that route, right? And of course, it's different for everybody, but what I found works best for me is, when you're in a good place, that's when you should start a company. So, I started mine in college and I was running it right now with side by side with my full-time job. And yes, it's stressful. Yes, it's a lot of work, but, I have the freedom to take risks, because, if something flops, if something fails, at least I still have a full-time job, right? And I can make the money back. I'm not worrying about, where my next paycheck is coming from. I'm more apt to take risks, to try stuff that's outside of my comfort zone, because I have a safety net of some sort, right? So I would tell people to, try entrepreneurship, but try it when you're in a good place, when you can take your time with these things, grow it as you want it to be grown, and you have some type of safety net behind you. And then also start young as much as possible. It's I've said this a million times, but you when you started like me in college, there's so many resources available for you because you're a young entrepreneur, right? Once you graduate and once you're in the real world, no one cares about you being an entrepreneur, right? But once you're in college, when you're in high school, that's like a beautiful thing to do, right? Because you're young, you're starting off, you have teachers willing to help you, have scholarship
Hmm.
funds available for you as a young entrepreneur, right? So if you take advantage of this, your professors will always be there to help you, to be a resource. I used my entrepreneurship professor when I needed some contracts to be made and stuff like that. He was more than happy to look it over. Now I have to pay a lawyer a couple $1,000s to read over a contract if I wanted to, right? Um, but you have a lot of resources. You have a lot of time. When you graduate, you don't have a lot of time. It may not seem like you have a lot of time when you're in college and in high school, but you do. If you manage out your time, if you skip a few parties, if you stay home and you work, you do have a lot of time to get a good foundation, a good basis when you're in school. And again, those resources slowly start to deplete as you get out of college. So take advantage of those. Start young, start early. You'll have more family and friends willing to help you because you're young. Just take advantage of that as much as possible.
Cool. So growth-minded community, take a note of that. Start young, and definitely leverage those resources that you have, whether in high school or in college. I didn't have this question prepared, but since we're still on learning, and you mentioned having some long-term goals, is there one long-term goal that catches your interest of your own personal long-term goal? It doesn't have to be related to your business or your company, even personally. Like, is there something that you want to do in a long term?
Um,
I'm catching you off guard with this, so we could come back to it if you want.
no, I just want to be happy, man. I just want to, not live a conventional life. I don't want to work a 9 to 5 until the day I'm 65 and then retire and then, start a family at X age and have kids at, I don't want to do any of that, man. I just want to, live my life how I want to live it. I want to be financially free and independent. And I just want to travel, experience different cultures, different cuisines, different people, learn from as many people as I can, and just be happy with that. So yeah, that's my goal. That's what I've been working towards every single day.
Cool. Try to throw your curveball on that. Cool. So we'll transfer over to the third and final section, growth. And I was doing a little research on Kuyashii, and I read that it means to use the words of doubters as energy to succeed. How'd you come up with that name? It's pretty cool.
Sorry, I think I lost you for a little bit. Okay, so Kuyashii, when I started that, I was looking for a name, and nothing was really clicking. And then I was sitting down with my family, and we were watching Chef's Table on Netflix. And I've always been into cooking, took a lot of lessons. It's always been like a whole thing for my family. We always love to cook. So I was watching Chef's Table, and there was a Japanese chef, and I'm also Japanese. So I was watching this episode, and she was a female chef in Japan. And when she started, a lot of the male chefs kind of told her that it wasn't her place, because it was mainly male dominated to be kind of the chef that she wanted to be. Um, so they kind of told her it wasn't her place and stuff like that. So she used this word in Japanese culture called Kuyashii, to kind of fuel all that negative comments and hate into her own energy and to succeed. So I kind of heard that and it resonated with me, because everything that I was doing wasn't very typical for a kid in New Jersey, or a kid who went to Rutgers, a kid who's studying supply chain or in business school. They didn't expect me to start a jewelry company or to start, a clothing company, stuff like that. So it was kind of out of the ordinary. And I did get a lot of hate when I started. So, that really resonated with me, and that's why I decided to call the company.
And it ties into the last topic we were just saying, like the unconventional piece,
Exactly.
compared to the traditional cultural expectations. Hey, get that 9 to 5, go
Mm-hmm.
get your master's, and have kids by you're 30 years old. Like,
Yeah.
that's great. I really like that. Like the background of that, and just that like that dream that you have and you want to keep alive. And it ties into something I'm reading on the side, like The Alchemist. Like,
That's a great book, man.
he's just like, I'm not gonna buy into what everyone. I'm not gonna buy into my fears. I want to take risks. I want to reach. He's trying to reach his personal destiny. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of ties
Yeah,
into
it's a great book.
what you're saying. Have you heard of the growth minded mindset philosophy before this call, or
No, not until you texted me and told me.
cool? Yeah, I was just curious if you ever heard of it, but yeah, just to summarize, it's in a growth mindset. People believe their most basic abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. Brains and talents are just the starting point, and then this view creates a love of learning and resilience for great accomplishment. So that's kind of the background of it. That was researched by Carol Dweck. She was one of the first. She was a doctor. I think she's at Stanford who did research on this growth-minded philosophy. So just curious if you heard of the concept. Um, yeah, well, now you
Never
know.
heard, but now I live by it.
Cool. As 2021 approaches, are there different areas that you'd like to grow and expand on, whether it's personally, professionally, spiritually, financially, physically, mentally, for your business? I'm throwing a lot at you, but just curious, as we
Um,
start the next year.
yeah. Um, I would say for goals, I just want to become more in tune with myself, take better care of my health, my body. I've just been working and 24/7, 365 for these past couple of years. I've been, working a full time, coming home, working more, and falling asleep with still doing work. And it's time to kind of change that. So kind of restructure my life in a way that um, I can get the same amount of work done, but still have time to do what I want to do, whether that be going out for a run or meditating or just doing some stuff to keep me alive more mentally and spiritually. Watching what I eat and being more healthy overall. In terms of my business, we recently brought on a partner full time. So I expect that with both of our minds together, we can really scale this business to the sky. So I'm really looking forward to that. Looking to see what you can bring onto the team, and I'm just really excited to see what can happen.
Cool. Well, I'll close things out, but first want to give a plug. I'll share my screen real quick. Um, yeah, I'll share my screen. Follow Kuyashii Jewelry on Instagram.
I'm gonna send you your chain next week, all right?
Now I'll put an order in. Don't worry. Yeah, let me know if you can see.
Looks great.
Yep, here's a website right here. This is where you follow this, you can buy jewelry for this, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Cool.
it's for a specific collection we just released. It's
Hmm.
called the Drop. Basically, we drop random times, only announced like a couple hours before or a couple minutes before.
Hmm.
Random one of one pieces, never to be recreated. So these are just like kind of, and this also helps to test products, right? You see what people are into, what they like, instead of buying 100 of them, 1,000 of them. You just buy one, test it, and it's also cool because people get to get one of one items that will never be released again. Right? They get to be unique.
Hmm.
So it's a win-win. But yeah, I have a lot of products, a lot of stuff for everybody, men, women, um, anything. So yeah,
Cool. Yeah, growth minded community. Definitely check out Kuyashii Jewelry. You could read more about like the words behind it, to use the words of doubters as energy to succeed. And you can follow their Instagram too for more information.
when are you gonna let me make growth-minded pendants, man?
Oh,
We can do it.
yeah, well, I'm interested. Yeah, I'll keep that on my radar, and we'll come back to that for sure. All right, so this was growth minded. We ran through how to have a positive attitude, how to create a love of learning, and how to continuously grow with Connor Shah, founder of Kuyashii Jewelry. And this was an honor and it was a privilege to catch up with you, man. And look forward to our next conversation.
Likewise. Thank you, Mr. Hayes.
Definitely. So this is Growth Minded. Like and subscribe, and I'll be dropping more content next Tuesday. So appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yep. Take care.